So I met Bruce Guthrie here in Washington, D.C. last year for the Lost Voices of Fentanyl rally. Seeing the pain in his eyes as we were waiting to talk to real America reminded me of my grief. And now this is Bruce Guthrie that we have here. If you would like to introduce yourself, and you can lead the way and share your son's story.
Sure, I'm a freelance journalist. I have been for over 20 years. I remember that evening very well, Sarah, when we met, and being able to stand on that platform. And I stood there as a dad and as an advocate, and that's something that, as you and I both are doing, being able to cope, being able to feel like we're making a difference simply by being advocates for those and trying to bring awareness so that other families don't have to go through what we've gone through. That's become my life's mission for the last 2.5 years, is to be able to educate and possibly maybe change some things to where maybe this doesn't happen to everyone the way it happens to us. I mean, you know the numbers. It's 303 per day, according to the DEA, and that is unacceptable. And it doesn't seem like anyone's talking about it, or has been. So we're trying to be as loud as we can. So, what would you like to know?
If you want to share anything about Cody, I know it's hard. Your son's name was Cody, right?
Yeah, Cody Sean Guthrie, he died on March 16th, 2021, at the age of 29 years old. Cody was an athlete, and in high school, I'm fairly sure that his addiction started after he became injured on the football field. And once the painkillers got into his body, and I think that's where the addiction originated. It just carried all the way through his adult life. I mean, for 11, 12 years. And it put him in and out of the system, federal and state. And it wrecked him. And he was one of those kids that, he was my rock. And a lot of times, my only son, and he was a typical kid. He was just somebody that everybody liked. He just had a lot of internal struggles. And I think this issue, and I believe his issue was also mental health. Also, just not just, my body's addicted to this. It's how I believe he coped with life. Once he felt that he didn't have to feel pain by using these pills and things, I think that became his go-to response. That's my opinion. I don't know that for sure, but that's just how I feel that he kind of carried on through life. And it's a shame because he was not only just a great kid, he was a great adult. He had a daughter, and she adored him, and he loved her, and he did a lot of things with her, and you know how adults are. As parents, we get a little crazy about our kids, and when I would get crazy, or just he would always calm me down. He would always be the cooler head, and he made a lot of common sense. And he was just one of those that, ever since he was born, he and I were twins, and, we played ball. He was baseball from the time he was 5 years old. In fact, this t-shirt that I have on right here is a replica. It's a replica of his t-shirt jersey from when he played baseball in high school.
Wow.
And I wear it quite a bit whenever, especially when I'm talking about it or when I'm speaking. I'm trying not to be, I'm not trying to gain a bunch of weight so I grow out of it. I'm trying to keep it as long as I can. I just, his memory, I carry it with me, and I wear it. I see it everywhere, and it's just one of those things where I could have chosen to allow this grief to define me, or I could fight back, and I just chose to, just like you have, I've chosen to fight back. So.
Well, I'm very proud of you, Bruce, and thank you for sharing a little bit about Cody. And his story, really touches close to home, like you said, about mental health and everything. And it's so similar to a lot of stories that I've been hearing in the community of, I have other friends that I've met too, where their kids were offered something at school after an injury, or at the doctor, I meant to say. And then their body becomes addicted to it. They feel shame, mental health. From my experience, when Alex was struggling in the end, he said, "Mom, you can't talk about mental health. People will call you crazy and they'll bully you to death." And it's, we're really trying to change the stigma nationwide. And I'm in New Mexico. So in New Mexico, it's really hard. And it took me over a year to find my voice because, in the beginning, I honestly thought my son's death would kill me. So I'm very proud of you because, you just went on year 3, the 3-year anniversary for Cody. And I feel like I just passed year 2. And it's like after year 2, the memories of, I don't know about you, but everything is so much more clear, so much more vivid. You have to really be mind strong every day. And I have my days, I have days where I don't want to talk to anybody or anything. And I just miss my son, and I just want to, reminisce and his memories and our memories together. And you reminded me too, it was very special, the bond that you and your son had. He was your only son. So you understand that grief feeling too of losing your only son and trying to tackle these waves every day when we get reminders, and it takes a toll on your mind and your body. So what else do you do to help cope with your grief?
I moved.
You moved? Okay.
So he died in Arkansas, and I was drowning in memories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like that I was in a pool that I couldn't get out of, and it just came to a point to where I'm like, this place is too small. Arkansas is too small for me. Every time even the hospital that I saw him the first time, after he was deceased, was right around the corner from where I lived. And then not only that, anywhere you go, that hospital advertised on billboards, like statewide, so I could go down interstates in different parts of the state and see that hospital billboard. Every time I would see it, it would take me right back to that night. Memories of, where we're all over the place. I mean, Cody went to jails in several cities in Arkansas and had spent time there, but because, for one reason or another. And it was all over. I mean, it was, I could, every highway that I would go down, I could think of something about him, whether it was some place that he lived when he was a kid, someplace he lived as an adult, someplace he was in jail. I mean, it was just everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. And it's hard for me to go back there to visit family sometimes. It was one of those things where I had a job. I was an editor of a newspaper there, and the company that owned that paper owned a paper in Georgia. And they had an opening for an editor here, and I tried for it and I got it. So I decided, from March 16th to August 2nd is when I moved, and that's what it took. And I just, that's just how it was. The memories are still here, obviously, but they're not around every single corner. I don't have to look at a sign every time I get on an interstate. I don't have to go to another town and remember the time that I spent there because of him or for him or with him. It's just, that's one of the things that I had to do to cope. There's no telling where I'm not sure how I would feel right now or how I would be if I had stayed there. Then I'll say this too, part of coping, I had to make a decision that night. I literally walked out of the emergency room that night that they called me and told me he was gone. I had to make a decision. Am I going to fight or am I going to follow him and just die right behind him? Because those were very real choices in my mind that night. And I made the decision to fight. And every time that I feel like I need motivation to do what we're doing, I think of that. And I was also the one along with my oldest daughter to close the casket after the funeral. The hardest two things that I've ever done in my life. So when I need to be able to find motivation and not give up on this, because our kids are already gone. You and I could seriously just walk away from this fight.
Yep.
If we wanted to.
Yep.
It would be it would be really easy to just say, you know what, my kid's already gone.
Yep.
I don't even want to live with this anymore. I don't want to think about this anymore. All we're doing, all we're doing. In some cases, some days I feel this way. Some days when I feel like I'm not getting through or when I'm not being heard, I'm like, what am I doing this for? Our boys are already gone.
Mm-hmm.
So when I feel that way, that's what I think about. I think about that 5 minutes of watching them load him in the back of that quarters van and look at that body bag and closing that casket and hearing that click. So that's what I'm talking. That's the best thing that I could do that I told to tell you that I'm coping is just by trying to make this purposeful in some form or another, being able and reaching out and trying to help parents like us that are everywhere, that are hurting and trying to at least give them an example of how to be strong. And I don't even know how in the world that we do this, because the amount of strength that it takes is insane. But
yeah,
we do it.
It really takes a toll on your health and your mind, your body. Before Alex passed away, I was a healthy mom. I would get up in the morning and you knew you had to take care of your kid and get him to school. And it's like life is so different. For the first year and a half, I couldn't get out of bed without throwing up every morning. And, it really, I was in a sense where I couldn't really talk about my grief. And so it started coming out in my health. And so it really, shows what it can do to the body. And I loved how you said that. It's really sad, but you said it in the perfect way that, you had to change your whole life and you even had to move because of the constant reminders and the, PTSD that we go through every day. I struggle with it too. And, driving down the highway every day to work and seeing the hospital that Alex was in the ICU at 2 months before he died, in your mind, and there's people that haven't experienced this journey that are very, I call them lucky and blessed to not understand why we have triggers if we're driving and we pass by a sign, like you said, and those tears just come over you. And it's hard. It's hard to just not let the grief and feel those tears and feel the pain. So, yeah.
Part of it's anger too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't get angry, that I don't get even rageful sometimes. about when those things happen. And, you know, the month of March for me is something that I have to cope with, because my mother died in March. Cody died in March. I had a spiritual mother that died in March. So it's between the anniversaries of deaths and funerals, littered all the way through it. And I say littered because that's exactly what it is.
Wow.
I just kind of try to put March into, you know, because my mother's birthday is in February 15th. From February 15th on through to April, those 6 weeks are usually the hardest 6 weeks of the whole year. And I try to, and you know how it is. I mean, birthdays come, you know, every holiday is on the calendar, you know what that is. The hardest part is when something hits you from the blind side, and you don't really know what triggered. Like if a song plays, or if something happens that, you know, that reminds you. There were times that I would go into a store, and something I see reminds me of something when he was little.
Yep.
You know, I was at Walmart here about a year ago, and something was going on, and I watched administer Narcan to a guy in a car. So, and he survived. And, you know, it's hard to watch that. It's hard to see that. I mean, I am thankful that that man survived.
Yeah.
But then, don't you wonder sometimes, why couldn't my kid have survived?
Yeah.
When he was Narcan. You know, it's something that's another fight. It's a very unfair thought process. It's a very morbid thought process that if this person survived, why couldn't my kid survive? And I get angry about it. I get angry at me for thinking it, and I get, you know, but after I get angry for, you know, for that fact. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't want people to die. Don't get me wrong, I don't want people to die. I just get angry at why couldn't my kid survive?
Yeah. No, I totally understand that feeling. I've been wanting to get myself a punching bag because you feel so much rage, and I just don't understand sometimes, how are these people, you know, in my situation not arrested yet? How are they still poisoning our community right now? And it's really hard. It's
justice is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
And it's, when it comes to that part, okay, there are probably 70% of those that are of us that are going through this that don't have justice. And I said that when they asked me on Real America's Voice at that interview, and I'll send you the clip that I have, the video, play it. What I said is that nobody hears us. When they ask me, what do we want to accomplish? And I said, we just want to be heard. Most of the people in that room, in that hotel room, where you were at hotel lobby, where we were, had not had any sort of justice whatsoever in their cases.
Yeah.
And it's a very small amount. Most states don't have laws on the books that will take care of these things correctly. And what we're looking for is some sort of drug-induced homicide, or at least a manslaughter charge, rather than just dealing drugs. Exactly. I think that if you do something, I mean, there's states like Georgia have felony murder, but Georgia did pass an Austin's law just last week, which makes it a whole different charge. And I could go back and look and read before I say it, you know, out loud in public. I want to be able to know what I'm talking about, but I'll get into that. I haven't read everything for that yet. But the prosecutor in my district is who authored that law.
Oh, wow.
And I'd like to think that maybe my story had a hand in getting that done. Maybe. I mean, he hasn't told me that. But I'd like to think that maybe what's going on, my voice, being an editor of a newspaper, and writing columns and doing things about these, and saying things about these things out loud.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that the county that I live in is one of the top counties in Georgia through fentanyl-related deaths. It's just, I hope at least that combination makes some good happen. And so, I don't know. I just think that when it comes to justice, I don't know that we'll ever see it. Not in its fullness. Yeah. Because the problem is so out of control. And even what I said then was, it's multiple things. It's not just border control. It is that. It's border security. It's harm reduction. It's education. It's all of those things. And not one bit of it is political.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that when people are trying to use politics, use our kids for politics, I just think I find that offensive.
No, I totally understand. And it's hard, because we're advocating for change. And you're right. There's a lot that comes with change. Harm reduction. We could talk all day about the laws, things that need to be changed. I've been in my state talking at the legislature, every city council meeting I can, every county commissioner meeting I can, sharing Alex's story. Because, one pill can really kill. Fentanyl is in everything now. It's in marijuana, cocaine. It's not like the days that I grew up in high school. I remember experimenting with marijuana, actually with Alex's dad. He used to smoke marijuana. And, I was like the good girl trying to keep him on the right track. And I could have died. Can you imagine? We both could have died back then. And this is killing a generation. Your son was only 29 years old. He had so much life ahead of him. And then it's hitting our youth too. Alex was only 16 and, he was first offered fentanyl and in the ICU by one of his own parents. So it's just, New Mexico, I'm very fortunate to be part of a few groups to where we go in the community and we advocate about Narcan, and I tell people it can save a life. You never know. You don't just leave somebody there. You call 911. You help them. You do anything that you can. And maybe, just maybe, by us sharing our stories and about Narcan and harm reduction and erasing the stigma about mental health, we can save more lives. But for us, we're never going to get our child back. And you're right. You touched on a very important issue a while ago that we could give up. We don't have to fight. Our children are gone. But when I meet other parents like yourself and everyone that I've been meeting, it gives me this fight in my heart to put all this pain and help save another life. Because I know there's people out there. And actually, the reason that I started this podcast, Bruce, is I couldn't talk that first year and a half. And I started listening to a podcast. It's called Grieving Out Loud by Angela Kinnicky. And she talks about she lost her daughter, Emily, to fentanyl poisoning. And I've been wanting to write her. And I think I'm going to and thank her, because if it wasn't for her, I would have never even thought about doing a podcast and sharing my story and getting everybody, because, we're all hurting. And it's like right now it feels like the parents and the community are the ones that are on the battlefield fighting for these kids and for our generation, and to wake up America and say, we have an epidemic going on right now and people are dying, and over 303 people a day now. When is this going to end?
So you remember, just to give you a perspective on this, when Cody first died, I looked into it and it was basically 100 to 150 a day. Yeah. And you'd think that would be enough, right?
Yeah.
And then in August of last year, I was at a DEA conference in Arkansas for Hope Movement,
Oh, wow.
and held my hand. I mean, Stacey James and that group. I mean, almost literally held my hand through the initial days of the process, and I'm on the executive board of that organization now. And if it weren't for people like that, I mean, we talk about fighting and whether we want to fight or not. If it weren't for people fighting, we were, that was my second DC rally, and it changes me every time that I go. They've had three. I've been to the last two, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get to go to this one this year, but I'm planning on going. But it's just one of those things where it's, if you want to see some people make change, you want to see some people come together and fight, go to DC, during that rally. There was, 500 to 1,000 parents there this past year. And look, remember how hard it rained that Saturday? It was literally a hurricane coming up through.
Mm-hmm.
And we still marched. It was insane. I had never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we marched, our tears and all, and it gives me goosebumps talking about it right now because our voices, like, the chant that we would say, whose kids are kids, and I'm so thankful to Virginia and April, and I'm praying that I get to do an interview with them when I'm in DC, because I am planning on going this year. And that really helped to be able to connect with you, and I met other people that I would like to reach out to and interview too about their stories.
The sad part is that there are a lot of new faces every year.
And it's over 100 a day now.
From the first one, and there's some of the ones that are there every year, but new faces like you, new faces that that are fresh in this fight. And I'm not saying we're not fresh, but good Lord, it's just.
I know.
I saw a couple of them were just a couple of weeks from losing their kid.
And me, it was about 1 year and 6 months after Alex passed that I went to my first rally, and you really have to prepare yourself too emotionally, because I saw Alex on the DEA museum on the wall, and it was like seeing him in his coffin all over again. It reverted me a little bit, and I just remember feeling lost. But when I saw the pain in your eyes and the pain in other parents around me, I knew that I was around the right people who understood my pain.
Yeah.
So thank you.
This is becoming an organization, a fraternity, or a sorority, however you want to call it. But that is, I go just my thoughts on these things. But when I go to organizational meetings in Arkansas, or I'm around a group, and my thought is always, I love this group and I hate this group.
Yeah.
I love the people in this group for what we're going through and for being together, but I hate the fact that we have to do this. So I love it and hate it at the same time.
Yeah. No, I love it and I hate it too. And I wanted to ask you again, because that organization you were talking about that helped you with Cody's funeral and everything, we need more organizations like this nationwide. In the state of New Mexico, they basically, right now, fentanyl poisoning is still looked at as an overdose. So when I reached out for help for funeral expenses, I was pretty much laughed at and treated, so.
Like what Hope Movement does is they not only do that, they have grief programs. They also have the ability to not just funds for funeral costs, but also for let's say that you're a grandparent and you lose your adult child, son or daughter, and all of a sudden now you have to raise a grandchild. Or let's say that you work in a job. I mean, they have programs to help get for that long. They do offer PTO supplements.
Yeah.
For those who need it, and it's a really a big kind of it's a big deal, and so I am advocating for them, and if there's a way to put something out there to help raise funds for those that want to donate. It's a nonprofit. They are operating as a nonprofit, and they're always in need of donations. So
and it was called, what was it called again, Bruce?
Movement Coalition.
Movement Coalition.
Hope Movement Coalition.
Hope Movement Coalition. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the link and everything for when you need, for whatever you need. And I'll also, we have videos out there of parent stories that are, and mine's in there included. I'll send you the link to the website and to the Facebook page, and you guys just kind of share it with your listeners, and you can get in there and talk about, you met Stacy in DC, right?
Stacy. I don't think I met Stacy in DC. I'm like Dory the fish these days. I have to put a face to my memory. I have to put a face, but no, I don't remember her.
Okay, I'll send you all the links that I have. And you can go in there. Also,
Yeah.
I'm open. I have a website for myself that I am starting to
Wow.
go out and do speaking engagements. Let me, and I'll send that to you also, and you can just kind of. I'm available to speak in schools, churches. I'm doing some of that already. I've done some of that already.
Wow.
And it is. Let's see, it's a long thing. I'll just send it to you. You can just kind of.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me and what I'm going to share with the listeners. So all the links and the Hope Movement and Bruce Guthrie's website, I'm going to actually attach on the episode. So this episode will be streamed on all podcast streaming platforms. And on the episode, there will be links to Bruce's website and also to the Hope Movement. No, I am very grateful for your time. I know how hard it is balancing work and your grief and just keeping the whole world on your shoulders every day. So you're doing a good job if nobody's already told you yet. And I know that Cody must be very proud of you to be advocating in schools, churches, have a website going. So keep doing what you're doing, Bruce, and keep his memory alive. And we'll just keep fighting these waves, because they're not going to take us under.
I'm also in development. I've got a filmmaker to partner with, and we're trying to get a documentary done and everything too. So
Awesome.
we're pitching that around to see if we can get that funded and get something going to where we can go and tell parents' stories. And I hope if that comes to fruition, I want. The mission is the same for all of us, and that is right now. It's therapeutic personally, but we do this to hopefully keep other parents from going through what we're going through. And I don't take that lightly. I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
I have some amazing partners. First, just starting with my wife Dana, who probably is a candidate for sainthood at this point, after having to live with the grief and my grief and hers and the grief of my daughters. I have a publicist here in Georgia that is taking on some things that my filmmaker partners that are working diligently to get these things done and get all of this together, just so we can try to save people.
Yeah.
And that's that's exactly what all this is about. I think the youth would have said no.
Yeah. That
But,
just, yeah.
but here we are. So that's why he does. I guess that's why he doesn't give me a say in how I live my life. So at this point, I am fully committed to this mission. It'll be up until the day I die.
Yeah.
I'm fully prepared for it. And hopefully you and I can end our lives knowing that we've made a difference. That's all we have to do now is make a difference. Yeah. And it not just honors them that we lost, honors those that we lost. It also will hopefully help save a dying world. That is what I hope.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast and for allowing me to tell the story.
Oh, of course, Bruce. And again, thank you for your time and everything. I know it takes a lot of emotional and, mental toll on your body. So please make sure to take care of yourself today. Again, for our listeners, I will make sure to attach Bruce's link to his website and to the Hope Movement website. I think
Hope Movement Coalition.
Yeah, Coalition.
On there, right.
And
I'll send the website and their Facebook and all that. So that's I want them to also be just spotlighted, bright light, loud and proud about what they're doing, because they're collectively they are making a difference not only in Arkansas but in the world. It's just it's amazing to watch and amazing to be a part of.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, Bruce, and I'm very grateful that I met you in DC, and I look forward to working with you more on future projects. So you have a good day. God bless you, and keep on fighting and putting your pain into purpose. At the end of the day, that's all we could do, it seems like.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Cody Sean Guthrie from October 23rd, 1991 to March 16th, 2021. He didn't quite make 30. I used to listen to my daughters, Katie and Lainey, talk about the way he hugs. A lot of parents say that, those hugs are unique. His was really unique. How he carried himself. In a lot of ways, he was really, really wise for his age. And that was just one of those things where when he was right, he was right. I can remember even as a young kid just teaching me about music. He said, "Dad, you gotta listen to this." He was a big Nelly fan. There were a lot of times if I needed him to step up, he could step up. Just being able to sit down and have conversations with him, just being able to watch things and be able to talk about it. That's what I remember the most. He was a sports kid, he was an athlete. And that was some of his greatest things. That's where it all started. He was playing safety for North Little Rock and was at Russellville, and he got his cleat hung in the turf and he broke his ankle. And it ended his season just like that. He had never been injured before, and it was really kind of devastating for him. It set him on a path to where he started taking pain medication. And that was the beginning of an addiction that would last right up until the day he died. Everything just kind of spiraled out of control. And he was kicked off the team. And I think that's really was the beginning of the end. He dropped out of high school and he got into trouble and just continued to get in trouble up until maybe 6 months before he passed. I normally sleep through the phone. For some reason, the light of this woke me up, and it was the second or third time that the person that called me was trying to call me. And I wanted to ignore it because it was not anybody that I wanted to talk to, but something told me to answer it, and I answered it. And it was his half brother, and the only thing he said was, "Cody's gone." And I asked, where is he? And they told me, and I just hung up. And I started getting my clothes on, and my wife asked me what's going on. And I just thought I could say is Cody's dead. We went to the hospital, which was about 5 minutes away. And I saw it for myself. That was it. I kissed him. I just looked at him and said, "Oh, son." I was one of those that never thought that I would have to bury a child. So it never occurred to me to open up a life insurance policy. And I was incredibly unprepared to even split the cost of a funeral. Hope Movement Coalition helped me with that, along with some other people. I don't know what would have become of me if it hadn't been for those people that reached out to me, grabbed me by the hand, told me what it was going to be like, and be spot on correct. It's something that I will never forget. The most dangerous thing you could think is that we're immune. We're a good family. We're immune to this kind of thing. This only happens to certain kinds of people. It happens to everybody. Just understand that if it does happen to you, it's not your fault. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. And it's okay to grieve. It's not okay to blame you or anybody else.